So let's finish off with a little bit of lighthearted humor here. Just to give you a little background, I've been doing this show for just a couple of months now. And one of the reasons why I started doing this show mostly was because I knew that we were about to go into a fascist wannabe dictatorship with Donald Trump and his regime. And one of the other reasons was I was watching after the election. I was watching so many Democratic news pundits kowtow, tuck tail, and, capitulate, pre give in to Donald Trump. Like Joe and Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe on MSNBC screaming and yelling about fascism and how Donald Trump is the next Hitler before the election. And then after the election, they went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the onion ring and, immediately just seemed like that they were turning their back on all of the rhetoric and vitriol that they were giving this new, autocracy that was coming in. Now all of a sudden they're like, well, let's just go down and make up with Donald Trump. You can't be calling the dude a fucking fascist and a wannabe, neo Hitler, 1 week, and then the next week you go down there and kiss his ass. I mean, where are your principles? Well, also, even in the YouTube sphere, I was seeing a lot of Democratic pundits start to kind of draw back and kind of play the centrist role. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Young Turks. I used to watch them years ago, and they started to seem like they wanted to be more fence sitter, recently. After the election, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, he started talking to people like Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA. And he made an ass out of himself trying to find a middle ground with a fascist. There is no middle ground with fascism. You compromise with a fascist, you get half fascist. That's not any good either. You need fighters. And after Donald Trump was elected the first time, I saw a lot of people, a lot of lib-coded people fighting against Donald Trump, but they were fighting. They had some fight in them. And this time around, it did not seem like they had any fight in them, which is one of the big reasons why I wanted to start this show, because I felt like, God damn, man, all of the fighting voices are disappearing. Somebody's got to do something. And I don't have any power. I don't have any sway over any of these people. But what I have is some political acumen and a voice. And God damn it, I'm going to use it. And one of the people that I was really disappointed with was Cenk Uygur's co-host on the Young Turks, Ana Kasparian. Ana Kasparian, in recent months, last year, she started to do a turn on trans people. And since I am trans, I took a little bit of offense to that. She started to turn into a TERF, which is, if you're not aware what a TERF is, TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. The woman who wrote the Harry Potter books, J.K. Rowling, is one of the biggest ones out there. Can you imagine being a successful billionaire writer of very popular children's books, now devoting all of your money and power into going after a very small marginalized group because for some reason you feel threatened by them? God, what a horrible woman. And Ana Kasparian, who at one point was quite a progressive. I used to see her doing interviews with this really amazing guy. His name is Michael Brooks. Michael Brooks used to be on the Majority Report, and Michael Brooks was one of the good ones. He not only was he very funny and entertaining, but he had the political chops, man. And unfortunately, he died a few years back, and that's a real loss for the progressive movement. But Ana Kasparian used to be friends with him, used to talk with him. I've seen interviews with those two together, and she seemed to be very progressive. But in the last few years, I think one of the things that precipitated her change was that she was assaulted by a homeless person, and ever since then, her politics started to change. Now, I'm not saying that a traumatic incident is not going to have an effect on you, but if it's tearing away at your core political principles, then did you really have core political principles to begin with? That's another question. I'll leave that up to her and to you to decide. Personally, I don't think that, you know, even a traumatic event, and I've had traumatic events happen to me in my life, it didn't change my politics, you know. Just to give you a little inside dope on me, a few years ago, it was actually maybe about a year and a half ago, I was coming home from the gym and I got hit on the street. I was crossing the street and a delivery guy on an electric scooter came flying through the intersection. And I looked both ways, but I didn't do the three looks. You know, in New York, you got to do three looks. You look at the direction of traffic, then you look at the direction of the other traffic, and then you look one more time. I didn't look that one more time. I looked, and I started walking, and I'm in the intersection. And this guy on an electric scooter plows into me and knocks me out. I remember getting hit thinking, you know, okay, that's not right. And then I wake up on my back looking at the sky. He had knocked me the fuck out. He hit me full body. Everything from my shoulder all the way down to my big toe. I got messed up. And it knocked me out. And a homeless man picked me up and pulled me over to the sidewalk. And then sat with me, asked me if he asked me if I wanted him to flag down a police officer for him. By the way, the guy that hit me, the delivery driver, didn't really get a good look at him. He took off. And I remember as I'm coming to, I felt somebody grabbing me by the shoulders, trying to pick me up. And I think it was that delivery driver. And I was like, get off of me! What are you doing? I'm just waking up from being knocked the fuck out. You know, Chris Tucker standing over me going, you got knocked the fuck out! I was cold. Anyway, I wake up to somebody pulling on me and I'm like shaking them off, and then I kind of turn. I'm on the street and I'm looking over to the side and I see this person get back on their scooter and take off. And then the homeless guy picks me up and he puts me on the sidewalk, and then he asked if he wanted me wanted to flag down a cop for me, and the guy's gone, and I'm like, no. And then I look across the street and I see a medical clinic, and I'm like, if you could just help me across the street to that medical clinic, I'd really appreciate it. Guy's name was James. Very nice man, and I really appreciated James. Anyway, I remember posting on it on social media about it. And so many people were talking about, you should sue, you should get somebody, you should get paid, you should go after that person. And I thought about it for like a split second, and then I was like, well, think about it. The guy doing that delivery, probably a recent arrival immigrant, working for what, $5 an hour, delivering, getting their tips taken away from them by DoorDash or something. Who am I going to sue that guy? He ain't got no money. He got 2 nickels to rub together. I didn't see a sign on his back saying what company you work for or what grocery store, or, should I sue the grocery store, the delivery system? I didn't know, who that was. Or, maybe I should be mad at the person who was too lazy to get off their ass to go to the grocery store to go shopping for themselves. They had to get it delivered from somebody. There's a number of people I could blame. Or maybe that person needed the delivery because they're old and they're invalid and they can't go out to the grocery store and that's why they ordered. There's a number of people I could be mad at, or I could just go, shit, happens. I live in New York. I got fucked up. It happens. I don't need to sue anybody. I don't need to have to go after anybody. And it didn't change my politics. I could be mad at an immigrant who doesn't speak English knocking me the fuck out on the street because he's desperately trying to get his delivery in before the 30-minute time limit, or he's going to get fired. I mean, I could get mad at a lot of stuff. But I mean, punishing somebody else is not going to make my broken toe better. I still got a fucking wound on my leg from the damn thing, and it's been a year and a half ago. I could be mad about it, or I could just get over it. And I'm not going to it's not going to change my politics. Now I'm mad at all illegal immigrants. I'm mad at any immigrant because they don't know how to drive, and God damn it, we should get them all out of the country. Jesus Christ, man. If your politics are so weak and flexible, you didn't have any politics to begin with. Anyway, Ana Kasparian seemed to have gone on this rightward shifting arc. And I don't know if she's still on the Young Turks. She might be. But now she has started to be on this other show, this once-a-week show called Her Take. And Her Take is an offshoot of Patrick Bet-David, PBD, Valuetainment, who's, by the way, Patrick Bet-David is part of a insurance pyramid scheme, and that's where he made his millions of dollars. And he does a TV show called The Patrick Bet-David Show. He's got a whole bunch of chodes and morons on the show with him that, they couldn't think their way out of a paper bag. And that's why PBD has those people on there to make him look smart. And he's decided to branch out and have another show called Her Take, where he has 4 women that don't know anything about politics argue amongst themselves in a right-wing fashion, to try to generate some more views on YouTube. And they get a lot of views. Her Take doesn't get as many views as Patrick Bet-David's show does, which, by the way, watching Patrick Bet-David and, Vinny and, whoever else, they got like this guy Adam on there and some other dude who is their policy nerd guy. And, watching that, I feel like I'm losing intelligence by just watching that. But anyway, so Ana Kasparian has now started to work on this show called Her Take. And watching this, I've noticed that Ana, this seems a little bit like the Ana of old. Now, I don't know if it's because she's talking to some right-wing morons. By the way, this Asian lady right here, up until about 5 minutes ago, was a Democratic, fundraiser. She was all about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris until they lost. And then she realized, hey, the grift, the money-making grift is on the right. I'm just going to switch to being a right-winger. And the woman here in the middle, she is, what is her name? Goddamn, Jillian Michaels. She was like on that show, The Biggest Loser, I think, where she scream and yell at fat people for being fat. And she doesn't know her ass from her elbow when it comes to politics. And she just happens to be the one in the middle who is directing this whole thing. I don't know who this Australian chick is. She looks like she's about, she's like a biscuit older than 15. And Ana Kasparian here on the end. And Ana, they're talking about, now, by the way, the dude over here, he's a guest. And he is actually Adam from the Patrick Bet-David show. And Jillian Michaels, who does not know anything about foreign policy, invites Adam to come on to have a debate with Ana about the possible World War III with Israel and Iran. And she brings him on as a ringer because he's supposedly very knowledgeable. But yet again, another moron who doesn't He couldn't think of his way out of a wet paper bag. He just couldn't. And Anna pretty much trounces all of these people because she actually knows something about this particular conflict. She knows the history of Israel. She knows the history of Israel versus Iran, and she lets them have it. So sorry about the long preamble. I just wanted to, just give you a little backstory on one of the reasons why I started doing this show, and it's because people like Ana Kasparian, who have given up her progressive bona fides to go on a show like this, but I will give her flowers for being able to, actually say some true shit on here, and she shows a little bit of fire, so I'll give her credit for it.
The Saudis.
So you have a losing side. You're taking the 20% of an 80-20 issue. Best of luck.
You literally just made my argument.
No,
Why do you think Israel pushed for regime change in these countries? They wanted to get rid of leaders that weren't friendly.
These very same,
in Saudi?
in Qatar?
Syria, Libya, Afghanistan. They tried, but we failed.
You know who pushed for regime change in Syria? The Syrian people that overtook Bashar al-Assad.
Right.
Your arguments are weak and invalid.
That had the United States involved, Israel involved, Russia involved. That was a major proxy war.
If Russia gave two shits about Syria and had the wherewithal to do it, they would defend Syria, and so would Iran. But because they're being
well, they're a little busy right now with Ukraine.
By Ukraine and Iran is being defunded by Israel, nobody can come to Syria's defense.
Israel should
now,
fight its own wars.
Now, the people of Syria are going to have to decide
we should send any of our soldiers, and when we do, inevitably,
Anna, just say
I want to come back
Iran
on the show.
First. That's fine.
No, I'm not going to say it because I don't believe that.
Can we just stop and remember who the president is? Everyone is underestimating the strength of Donald Trump.
5 minutes before we move on.
There's no way he's going to let himself be pushed around by anybody.
Remember, this woman was a Democrat like 12 minutes ago.
The final thing I'll say about this, and then we can move on, is we currently have a United States Congress that's nickel and diming the fuck out of Americans by focusing on cuts to Medicaid, SNAP benefits. In the meantime, we are sending tens of billions of dollars to Israel so they can fight their wars.
But you got to remember, that money isn't just going to Israel. It's going back home.
No,
I agree
it's
with you,
going to defense contractors, Lindy.
So
I don't give a fuck about defense contractors making more money. I think that's the problem.
So, Lindy, let me say one thing.
Let me say one your
thing.
own argument.
She's saying exactly that it's not just.
It's priming our economic.
If you ever done a budget before?
No.
That money.
Do not make the mistake of thinking defense contractors fattening their pockets even more is somehow beneficial to the American
Anna,
people.
you just heard me make that. I'm just saying
it's not that.
You're saying the money is going all the way overseas. I'm saying it's also coming back here.
She's trying to get you to see the role that we're playing.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I know, but do you understand that it is a redistribution of wealth?
I'm isolationist. I don't want this happening.
I know, Lindy, I'm not going to direct this to you. I'm just going to direct it to the audience or in general, okay? This is a redistribution of wealth from working class Americans to defense contractors.
I don't want it happening.
Because of Netanyahu.
Right.
Well, I mean,
I think he's a factor. I don't think he's the only factor.
Bibi likes to push false narratives about, this country's a big threat. American soldiers, go fight this war. Go fight this war. Give me money. Give me money. Give me money.
You have to give our people a little bit more credit than trying to be.
I do give our people credit, including the actual genuine America First crowd that does not.
By the way, I don't know if this is entertaining to the regular people out there. There's a lot of screaming and yelling over each other, and when you have a whole room full of uninformed but very opinionated people, and you are Ana Kasparian, which, by the way, that's not really good screen grab and making her look a little hostile. I don't know if this makes for entertaining content, but it's definitely interesting to watch.
Leaders have their own say,
they don't want this war. The left doesn't want this war. Actually, this is the one issue where it seems like there's some unity with contingents
the gays
on
for
both
Gaza
sides.
and the isolationists have teamed up to be basically anti-America.
That is absolutely the truth. The far left sees Jews as having all the white privilege and being the old.
What? The far left sees Jews having Jillian, God, man, you're an idiot.
Imperialists. And then the MAGA far right sees the Jews as being responsible for all of this. and it equals a real bad situation for the Jews. I'm being friggin' honest.
If you're
doing the same thing that they've done for years, they blame the Jews for everything. That's fine. That's cool. That's your argument.
If you're concerned about anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism is real, and it has increased. Hold on, it has increased significantly in the United States. You want to know why?
Yeah, tell me why.
When you see the slaughter of all those innocent kids in Gaza, and our government provides cover for it, and in fact funds it, that leads to a lot of rage among hardworking Americans who see their quality of life go down the drain as we're funding a genocide.
Kids being killed.
Can we bottom?
And I would love to see Hamas leave.
Right, it's not about Hamas. Let's
Can we
stop
talk about
If Hamas would, in all fairness, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you. The other side, though, because there are two sides, why didn't Hamas just give the friggin' hostages back?
Because they actually tried to give the hostages back. They tried to make a deal as recent as in the last couple of weeks. We will give you back all the hostages and we will drop our arms and leave if you promise not to reoccupy Gaza. And Netanyahu told them to fuck off. That's why.
There'd be no excuse.
Yeah, I agree. Hamas should have given the hostages back 100%. But let's also acknowledge.
Oh, and by the way, the only time that they actually did give hostages back is when there was a ceasefire. Israel stopped bombing. They made a deal to give back some of the hostages. And they were going to continue on with the talks until Netanyahu started bombing them again.
When there is a siege on Gaza, when there are Israeli and American, by the way, hostages being held captive by Hamas, they're not just starving those poor Palestinian civilians, they're also starving their own hostages. Let's also not forget about the fact that the IDF shot and killed 3 Israeli hostages themselves. They didn't ask any questions, immediately started firing, killed 3 people. We need to actually have an honest conversation. Well, I mean, they didn't ask any questions. They were literally shirtless, waving white flags, saying, we need help, we need help. They got shot and killed immediately. The IDF is super belligerent.
I don't know if you guys remember that. They had a little bit of footage of it where a red-headed Jewish man without a shirt, I think he wasn't waving a white flag, I think he was waving his white shirt, came out and they shot him along with a couple other hostages. And then they found out later on that they had actually shot their own Israeli hostages, the IDF soldiers. So, yeah, great job. Shoot first, ask questions later.
How they're carrying out this war. They're killing a lot of innocent people. In the case that I'm outlining, I'm talking about 3 Israeli hostages. If you're not willing to be critical of Israel, I question how honest you're being about this whole situation.
I'm critical of Israel just like I'm critical of America.
Can we be...
Lindy,
hold on.
If America makes mistakes, I'll call them out. But I'm very pro.
Man, did you see how he just dressed her down? Lindy! And she just ducked her little head. She knows her place. A man is speaking. Be quiet. By the way, there is a little moment that comes up here where Adam tries that shit on Anna, and he goes a little bit further. And I'm shocked that Anna didn't take the bait, but anyway, we're getting to it. Hold on.
But we do make mistakes. If Israel makes mistakes, I'll call them out. But I'm very pro-Israel. I don't understand what you're doing when you're trying to be pro-Hamas and pro-Iran. Hold on.
When you strawman me, it makes this
you
entire
can get to talk. You get to talk.
Did she say that she was pro-Hamas? She is pro-ending the fucking bombing and the genocide. She's pro not having kids killed. She's pro not having hostages shot. He says she's pro-Hamas. I mean, goddamn, man. That right there would piss me the fuck off.
Apart. So I'm trying to have an honest exchange with you. I'm not putting words in your mouth. Please don't put words in my mouth.
You can talk when I'm done talking, and that's how this works.
Daddy.
No?
But if you straw man me, and argue that I'm making arguments that I didn't make, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you if you lie about what I'm saying.
So you're a grown up when you argue. Got it.
I am a grown up. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you seem very emotional, and I threw you a tissue just in case. I also have a tampon in case you need a tampon.
Adam,
oh my God! He just threw her a fucking tampon. Honey, I would beat the piss out of that boy. I would jack him the fuck up and beat him with his little white sockless shoes. I would take that little red handkerchief and I would gag his ass with it. Throwing a tampon at a woman. Telling her, I will talk, and then when I'm finished talking, then you can talk, okay, sweetie? That's how we do it, honey, okay? Know your role, know your place. You're on a man's, you're in the presence of a man, and, you know, you need to know when a woman needs to be quiet. That's what you need. He brought that tampon. He brought that with him as a prop, because he knew he was going to do that. I mean, throwing a tissue, that's some gamesmanship and some bullshit. But he literally brought a tampon with him to fuck with her. And I got to give Anna credit, because I would not have had this restraint. But she holds it.
It's fine. It's a tampon, just in case you start crying.
Listen, I'm not deterred by your like ridiculous juvenile attacks. Let's have an argument about the actual facts.
Israel is fighting terrorists around the world. And in this one particular situation...
Israel is a fucking terrorist state. Fighting terrorists around the world. God, this guy's a moron.
Why isn't Israel doing genocide in Lebanon? Why aren't they doing it in Syria? Why aren't they doing it everywhere else?
What are you talking about, man? They have been firing on Lebanon. What are you talking about? This is supposed to be the informed guy, the guy that knows Middle East shit. He's very supportive of Israel, but he doesn't know his ass from his fucking elbow.
Only in Gaza. By the way, why is Gaza
because they want to clear Palestinians out of that land and take it. That's why.
And let's say that were the case, which it's not.
It is.
Why couldn't they do that? Because that's what everyone has done in that region for decade and after century.
Wait, why couldn't they do what?
The Islamization of the entire Middle East, who's the centerpiece of that? Okay?
These have been
Iran
Muslim majority. First of all, these have been Muslim majority countries forever.
And why is
Palestinians are Sunni Muslims. Iran is Shia Muslims. They are not the same thing. That's like saying that, a Catholic from New York City and a Southern Baptist from the deep red south of Alabama, they're the same guys. It's not even the same fucking sport. Sunnis and Shia Muslims have been warring for centuries. This expert, if he knew anything, would know that Palestinians are Sunni Muslims. They're not Shia Muslims. So saying that Iran is backing them up is absolute horseshit, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Every Muslim country fighting with each other. Syrians fight with Syrians. 500,000 people died in Syria. 1 million people have died in Sudan. In Sudan. 500,000 people have died in Yemen. I don't hear bo peep about any of that. But when Israel gets attacked on October 7th, that's all you want to talk about. I'd give you a little bit more credit if you were talking about the Christians that are being killed in Syria. I'd give you a little bit more credit if you would talk about...
There are Christian Palestinians. They literally have churches in Gaza, Christian churches, that of course Netanyahu and Israel have bombed and razed to the fucking ground. Doesn't matter. They're brown people. This is an ethnic conflict. Zionism is an ethnic distinction. It's not got anything to do with religion. It's got to do with an ethnicity. They are brown people. Israelis are white. That's the difference. That's the Zionist way.
Millions of Muslims that have died around the Middle East, but you guys don't say shit unless Israel's involved. That's the problem I have
because we fund Israel's wars of aggression.
So just because we fund it, we're not allowed to talk about anything else? So we can't talk about the genocide?
Man, talk about moving the goalposts, man. He just gave you something and she just immediately clapped back on it, because we fund it. And by the way, all of the shit that was going on during Trump's first term when he was arming Saudi Arabia while they were doing a genocide in Yemen, Congress actually did a bipartisan effort to stop funding Saudi Arabia's Yemen genocide and stop giving them weapons. It was Rand Paul, Mike Lee on the libertarian side, and Bernie Sanders on the progressive side. They got together, they got a bill, they put it on Donald Trump's desk, and he fucking vetoed it. Why? Because they buy lots of weapons from us. Why am I going to say no to buying weapons? Well, what about, they chopped up that reporter. You sure you don't want to, maybe have some words about him? Well, I mean, I don't know. The guy really wasn't a citizen or anything. I mean, but they buy billions of dollars of weapons. What am I going to say no? So yeah, man, we do raise our voices when it's not got to do with Israel. But he does not know anything.
See in different contexts all the time.
The only thing I've ever heard you talk about is Israel. You're obsessed with Israel.
Well, then you need to get to know me a little better.
Trump derangement syndrome, you have Israel derangement syndrome. And it's seeping out left and right. I hope and pray that you stop being so ignorant to the fact that Israel is defending America and American values against terrorists
How are they defending
around the
America?
Middle East.
How?
Let's say that Iran was a threat, which a lot of people think they are.
They are.
Let's not even hypothetical. People think so. So, and I know there's a lot of credible and intelligent people who don't, right? And unfortunately, time's going to tell how this is going to play out.
I don't know too many credible or intelligent people that don't think Iran is...
Let's just let it play out. Of Netanyahu and Donald Trump, they want to start a war. Let's just let it play out. I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
The other side is that Israel is doing the dirty work and getting demonized for it. That is the argument on the other side.
This is not dirty work. These are war crimes. This is not something that has to be done. Iran does not have to be attacked and have their leadership overthrown. I mean, it never seems to work out when we try to overthrow leadership in a foreign country. It never works the way we want it to. Ever. But let's just let it play out. Let's just see. There's a lot of people that think that we need to do this. There's a lot of people that think that Netanyahu is, doing the dirty work that nobody else is willing to do with our weapons and our funding.
Also, Adam, can I also say a couple of conversations ago, Adam, you brought up something very interesting that we haven't even addressed. It's the Islamic terrorism. And then Islamification of Europe and also America. If you're going to talk about...
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Wait,
yes,
hold on,
I'm definitely not getting to know Kings today.
Let's talk about that. And I really appreciate everything you brought up. And, the Israeli regime does deserve to be criticized on occasion. But we also have to look at this extreme threat of Islamic terrorism that is here at home. I mean, do I even need to mention 9/11? We just had a shooting a couple weeks ago.
9/11! 24 years ago. Do I even need to mention 9/11? Which, by the way, Saudi Arabia, much Salafist, Sunni Muslims, not Iran. Not Iran. They are two different sects, two different countries. Do I even need to bring up 9/11? Maybe you shouldn't, you dumb bitch.
Against the Jewish community, right?
Our regime change wars have spurred Islamist groups like ISIS to pop up.
But you don't know that this is that yet. Okay. You don't know that.
All right, so then let's end it here.
The Iranian Revolution started in 1979.
Let's end it here. Let me just say one more thing. Let me say one more thing.
Because we
play that clip?
When we inevitably get dragged into this war, when we inevitably end up spending tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions, if not a trillion, depending on how long that war with Iran lasts, will you guys come back on this show and at least admit I was right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wait, hold on a second.
What's the question? Say it again.
But have you thought that maybe it'll go well and it won't take 20 years? Let's just say that he'll drop some bombs and all of this will be taken care of in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be in and out like the Vaseline salesman and everything will be A-okay. Of course, all the Gazans will still be getting genocided and starved to death, and and they'll be doing more and more pogroms in the West Bank, and then he will be Netanyahu will take more parts of Libya and more parts of Syria for the greater Israel, and but let's just say it all. let's just say it all works out, because it works out every time. Right, Jillian? God damn. Stick to yelling at fat people, man, for entertainment value, because, honey, you are out of your fucking depth. Let's just see if there's anything else here worth value.
6 months.
Yep.
And Iran is defanged in the Abraham Accord. This is a pipe dream. I get it. But if it ends within 6 months, Iran is defanged. I don't know if there'll be a regime change. I have no idea. I haven't heard talk of that yet. Obviously, I know that we wouldn't be hearing that because nobody is for that. In fact, Trump denied involvement because it's so friggin' unpopular. I get it. But if in 6 months this is resolved, it's like Soleimani, came, it went. Iran is...
Came and went, huh? Soleimani. We assassinated Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, who was fighting ISIS on the ground. God, she's so dumb. She's so dumb.
And the Abraham Accords are expanded. Will you admit that?
Yeah, of course.
All
Yeah,
right,
because
then.
what I'm
Let's
saying
see.
is that Trump is not going to allow himself
Let's
to be
see.
dragged in. I just don't think
I
it's a
hope not.
possibility.
You have way too much.
Boy, honey, sweetie, my sweet, sweet summer child. Donald Trump is not going to allow himself to be dragged into this. Honey, he is going willingly. Israel does not wipe its backside without the permission of the United States. He is actively pushing for this. Either Donald Trump is dumb and being led around by his tail by Netanyahu, or they did it in tandem where he's trying to make a peace deal out in front while Netanyahu is shooting Iran from behind. It's one or the other, but either one of them will lead to war with a country that is much more militarized than Iraq. God, man, the idiocy, the lack of any kind of historical context or political acumen on this panel is unfathomable. And Ana Kasparian, I mean, honestly, honey, you gave up the Young Turks to be on this fucking show, to be on the lady version of Valuetainment. Are you valuetained? Are you not entertained? I hope you're getting paid good money for this, Anna. Jesus Christ.
Look, I don't have that much faith in any politician.
I'm not saying, you know that I'm not MAGA. What I'm saying is he ran on America first. He ran on isolation.
But guys, I just want you to remember one thing, because you brought up Yemen. I'm so happy you brought up Yemen, Adam. Thank you for doing that, okay? Because the United States assisted Saudi Arabia in fighting the Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Yeah.
Who are, of course, backed by Iran.
Yeah.
Now, did we beat the Houthis in Yemen?
It's still going.
It's still going. So I bring that up because if anyone is under the assumption that a regime...
If we can't take the Houthi rebels, which, by the way, Donald Trump made a little deal with them, shoot at anybody you want, just don't shoot at Americans. And they agreed to that deal. But if we can't beat the Houthi rebels, you think we're going to have an easy time with Iran? Really?
Change war in Iran is going to be a cakewalk. They have another thing coming.
Okay, but Trump
who said
bankrupted
cakewalk?
them,
Who said
and it made a
cakewalk?
huge difference.
It's going to be a massive endeavor.
He choked them out financially.
Which means that the U.S. is going to get dragged into that war, Adam. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, so what you're arguing is a hypothetical, and I hear you on that. Nobody wants to Israel.
Honey, this whole show is a hypothetical. Gillian Anderson just did a what if in like 6 months it's like okay and stuff, and everybody's like fine and things, Have you thought of that? That is a fucking hypothetical. He's about to come out of his fucking face hole is probably a hypothetical.
Get involved in more wars. I'm with you on that.
Agree.
But you're arguing a hypothetical as if it's fact.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I had with you. It's like, we can't have this, we can't want this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but it's not happening right now.
And it did not.
So let's argue what's happening. So let's not happen the first time.
It doesn't happen, right?
But
Like she's...
Lindy's bringing up probably the most important point, because we're so fixated on Israel. Lindy's talking about the Islamization of European Christian cities.
Yeah, do you know why that's happening? Because of refugee crises, due to wars that destabilize these Muslim majority countries.
I think it's intentional.
Like the Syrian civil war.
Yes.
Like a Yemeni civil war.
I think it's an intentional foreign
like
invasion.
a Libyan war, regime change war.
I don't think it's just a humanitarian crisis. I think there's an intentional
it's a fundamental ideology.
to destroy Western. They say that. It's a campaign to destroy Western civilization.
When Western civilization destabilizes your home, your country, that leads to a lot of rage, and I can understand why. If some other country invaded us, destabilized the United States of America, believe me, I'd be out on the streets chanting death to whatever country as well.
They're not just doing that. They're coming over to our countries, invading us, killing our people.
Who's invading us and killing?
What are you talking about? Iran does not have delusions of grandeur. They do not have a higher idea of taking over the world. That is not what they do. That is an ISIS thing. And what fucking Iranian is over here doing terrorism? What are you talking about, woman?
Politicians are creating the incentives to bring them in. Like, this is a system problem as well. It's systemic, you know. But honestly, listen, guys. I saw a post that says, I am smart enough to know I'm too retarded to comment on this. I'll agree with that. What I can say is I feel like...
All right, look, I can't take it anymore. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. If I subjected you to too much of that, I apologize. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I do have some sympathy for Ana. She is being attacked on all sides by idiocy and, just lack of any kind of information. And when everybody's yelling and screaming over each other in a belligerent fashion, how can you have an actual conversation? That dude, Adam, he's a moron, and he was brought on as the intelligent Middle East ringer. Just the irony. He's like the B Squad on a B Squad show, being brought on as an informed pundit on the Middle East. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. I feel bad for Ana, but at the same time, honey, you gave up on being a progressive to do this. What are you doing? I mean, I'm ready to give flowers when they're due, and I will give you credit for this, for being able to stand up against this and be so exasperated. I mean, for God's sakes, there is a lot of stupidity on that show to be exasperated at. But you chose to do this. You chose to be this. You chose to be a centrist liberal. And now you're fighting with belligerent right-wingers who they're not listening to you. They're throwing you tissues and tampons. They're talking down to you. They're treating you like a second-class citizen because in the world of right-wing punditry, little Freudian slip there, but in that particular venue, you are a second-class citizen. Your opinion don't mean shit. You just shut up, know your role, speak when spoken to, and just in case you start bleeding out of your eyes, your ears, wherever, here's a tampon for you. Oh my God. Oh, anyway. That's the show for today. Oh God. Wow. We are living in the craziest timeline. It is absolutely the dumbest timeline that I could possibly imagine. Wow, man, I wish the Marvel Cinematic Universe would switch us back to the Bernie timeline. Just take us back to 2015 and let's just get Bernie as president. We wouldn't have to deal with this shit. Anyway, hopes and dreams and wishes and prayers and goddamn, talk about a pipe dream. Putting a progressive in as president, that's a fucking pipe dream. Anyway, that's the show for the day, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you were value-tained. I hope you got some good information out of me, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. It would really help me out with the algorithmics in the old YouTubes, and I'll dance at your wedding, and I'll love you a long time. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch you next time. You take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.